If you have a problem with us, we'll all quit. That's what they said as they handed me hastily scrawled resignation letters. The letters mockingly read, "We're quitting because Timothy told us to." I never said anything of the sort. However, they had no real intention of quitting. They were just mocking me, enjoying themselves at my expense. I had a peaceful life with my wife and daughter, simple but fulfilling. That all changed one day. It started when the three sons of the executives joined the company. For some reason, I became their target, treated like a servant. Eventually, the situation escalated to the point where even my family was endangered. The executive sons uploaded my family's personal information online. That was when I swore revenge. I took my plea directly to Mr. Olson, our company CEO, who was on a business trip to South Korea. "Please, I'm begging you. Accept their resignations." Upon learning the truth, Mr. Olson was shocked and furiously enraged. "My name is Timothy, and I'm 44 years old. I work as a manager in the cosmetics department at OK Trading, a company specializing in importing overseas cosmetics and goods. Lately, our focus has been on trending South Korean cosmetics. Mr. Olson is deeply passionate about Korean cosmetics, visiting the country weekly to discover and introduce new products to Japan. It was his initiative that brought Starry Rouge, a lipstick, to Japan after it became a sensation among young women in South Korea last year. It had adorable packaging with reliable quality. When applied, it sparkles like stardust, transforming from a seemingly blue hue in the tube to a different color on the lips. It adjusts to the wearer's natural lip tone, creating shades of pink or red. What's more, both the color and the shimmer are long-lasting, and the price is very affordable. With features like these, it's a cosmetic that not only young girls but anyone would want to try. Unsurprisingly, it went viral on Japanese social media, sparking a shopping frenzy. Starry Rouge became our best-selling item, with over 100,000 units sold, earning legendary status in the cosmetics world. Smiling proudly, Mr. Olson often reminisces about its success. "You've got to be generous with samples. Once people try them, they'll buy them." That's why I insisted every store have 3 sample sets. Typically, cosmetic counters have just one set of samples. In some stores, they're incomplete or even missing altogether. But with a generous approach to providing samples, they captured the hearts of women. Customers who intended to buy just one shade often found themselves purchasing multiple colors instead. It was a victory for his clever marketing strategy. Korea is a treasure trove. There are still plenty of products waiting to become hits. I'll keep finding them and bringing them to Japan to make young women happy. He beams with enthusiasm. Honestly, I think Mr. Olson has great taste. Both my wife and my daughter, Amelia, who's in 5th grade this year, enjoy using Korean cosmetics. According to my wife, even young girls like Amelia can safely have fun with products like lip tints or blush as long as they choose brands gentle on the skin. With such positive feedback from my family, I felt motivated and proud of my work. However, my peaceful life began to crack in an unexpected way. Mr. Olson frequently travels to South Korea for business, leaving the company under the management of the executives during his absence. The most trusted among them are Robert, Miles and Oliver, collectively known as the Three Musketeers. They have long served as Mr. Olson's right-hand men, with a proven track record of steering our company forward. However, this year something unusual happened. Robert's son, Ryan, Oliver's son, Simon, and Miles's son, Stephen, all joined the company. None of them were fresh graduates, and their ages and educational backgrounds were all over the place. Even the least observant could tell they were hired through connections, but Mr. Olson regarded them warmly. They're the promising newcomers who will carry the future of our company. Everyone, take good care of them. Mr. Olson, who loves children, had never been blessed with any of his own after marriage. So, when he heard that the executive's children were joining the company, he was genuinely delighted. But the executive's sons, oblivious to his sentiments, ran wild. Within a week of joining, they began behaving as they pleased. Naturally, their executive parents didn't say a word to them. In fact, the executives themselves were often nowhere to be found, and on bad days, completely unreachable. The executive sons had an outrageous schedule, arriving at the office around 3 p.m. They strolled in casually, only to spend the rest of the day absorbed in games. Yes. First place. Simon shouted, raising his fist triumphantly. That's unfair. Let's do a rematch, one of the others complained. Simon, grinning as he rubbed his nose happily, was a big eater. It seemed they were using the game results to decide who would pay for their meal. No way. I won, so Ryan has to buy pizza. Some days they played mobile games, while on others they brought gaming consoles into the office, creating a ruckus as they played. It was as if they didn't realize they were in a workplace. Man, I'm starving. Oh, in that case, let's call Timothy. Hearing my name suddenly called out, I froze in shock. Timothy, go to McDonald's and grab us some burgers. Don't mess up the order, okay? Take notes. Though stunned, I firmly refused. I'm working right now. I can't do that. Stephen's face twisted in irritation. Oh? Do you think it's okay to talk to us like that? His glare was intense, and though it startled me, I could tell he was used to this sort of behavior. He'd probably been pushing people around with unreasonable demands since his school days. On another day, something similar happened. Timothy, call Pizza World and order delivery. 2 seafood and 2 margarita pizzas. Again? This sets a terrible example for the other employees. Please stop asking me to do things like this. I protested earnestly, but they clearly didn't care about my opinion. Useless. Fine, you over there, order delivery. They acted as if such arrogant behavior was perfectly acceptable. Whenever they were hungry, they would summon employees and order them to buy fast food or pizza. When they got bored of gaming, they shifted gears, announcing plans to promote the company. Our website is so outdated. Let's upload a video about the company. On BooTube. That's a great idea. Let's do it. They started filming around the office, but the results were appalling. For instance, they filmed confidential products currently under negotiation without a second thought. Panicked, I stepped in to stop them. The 3 of them didn't even try to hide their displeasure. Don't get in the way. Stephen immediately pouted and complained. They clearly believed they could get away with anything. A wave of frustration rose within me. This product is confidential. Filming is absolutely prohibited. Stephen scowled and turned away sulking. Trying to shift the focus, Ryan pointed toward the female employees. Then let's film the girls instead. A beauty shoot. Excitedly, they started pointing their cameras at the attractive employees, ignoring everyone else. Simon jumped on the bandwagon, cheering, "Yeah, that's great. Let's do it," as the atmosphere grew rowdier. "Come on, Catherine, you're beautiful. Step over here and let us take some pictures of you." The female employee, clearly uncomfortable, tried to avoid them. They didn't care about anyone else's feelings as long as they were having fun, that was all that mattered. But just when I thought they'd continue pestering the female employees, they crossed another line by addressing a middle-aged woman passing by. "Oh? Hey, are you trying to get in the shot? Seriously? Spare us. Ugly people can just move along." The woman, visibly hurt, walked away with a deeply offended expression. It was an appalling remark that anyone would find repulsive. This workplace, plagued by the trio's jeers and insults, had become unbearable. Female employees, desperate to avoid confrontation, would retreat to the restroom in groups. With this nonsense happening every day, no work got done. The next day, before the executive sons arrived, a group of employees gathered at my desk. With serious expressions, they began reporting the trouble they had experienced. Timothy, you've got to do something about those three. We can't get any work done. They act like children and keep disrupting everything. I was at my wit's end. Mr. Olson was in South Korea with Tyler, the department head, and none of the executives had been reachable since the previous day. To the executive sons, I was probably just some insignificant underling, but I couldn't stand by while everyone suffered. When they arrived later that day and immediately began their antics, I finally decided to confront them. Do you guys understand this is a workplace? Ryan stared at me, his forehead creasing with irritation. And who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? You're just a manager. I was subjected to humiliating insults. Know your place. The three of us are the thoroughbreds who'll carry this company forward. Simon also chimed in with sharp remarks. Finally, Stephen made a suggestion, clearly enjoying himself. I've got a great idea. You're going to be in our video. We'll reveal all your personal info. Before I could react, they grabbed me, pinning my body tightly. What are you doing? I can't breathe. I screamed in distress. Take his phone. The other two, laughing gleefully, pulled my phone out of my pocket. Stop it. Stephen, who was heavy-set, leaned his weight on me, making it hard to breathe. When they finally released me, I was left gasping for air, tears welling in my eyes. Hilarious. This phone isn't even locked. You're so careless, Timothy. The three of them burst into loud laughter. What's in the photo folder? Forbidden pics, maybe? Let's expose everything. They started rummaging through my photo folder without permission and found pictures of my wife and daughter. Oh, look. You've got a cute daughter. Her name's Amelia, right? Poor kid. Stuck with a father like this, so unreliable and so useless. And now, getting exposed on social media? How sad. It became clear they were planning to upload our family pictures to the popular social media platform Twitter. Please, calm down. Leave my daughter out of this. This has to be a joke. Please calm down, you'd better say, I'm begging you. Why are you always so condescending? It's annoying. Desperate, I tried to resist, only to be shoved to the ground by Stephen. Done. Uploaded to Twitter. Congrats, Timothy, you're famous now. I tried to grab my phone back to delete the post. However, Stephen, laughing loudly, pinned me down again, leaving me helpless. I could hear murmurs of "this is too much" from the employees watching nearby. Did someone say something? I thought I heard something. Afraid of their rampage, no one dared to speak up, and everyone quietly returned to their work. I let out tears of frustration. Why do I have to endure this? When I protested, the three of them smirked, looking down at me with disdain. Hey, don't you get yet how important our parents are? Stephen said, grinning as he playfully tapped me on the head. All I could say was a "please stop" in a whisper. Then Ryan grabbed my hair and ruffled it roughly. Can that little brain of yours even comprehend it? Poor little head, he mocked, laughing. The three of them burst into laughter, telling me I should go back to kindergarten. Ryan then sniffed his hand exaggeratedly. Yuck, now I've got hair gel on my hand. Gross. Muttering to himself, he wiped his hand on my shirt. They were completely out of control, doing whatever they pleased. No matter what I said, it was useless. I sighed quietly. Listen, if you go against us, our parents will crush you like a bug. Simon threatened with a menacing tone. At this point, they seemed less like rookie employees and more like members of some criminal organization. It wasn't just him. Stephen, as if finding it impressive, spoke with equal roughness. I'll show you we're not all talk. Hearing this, I was paralyzed with fear, wondering what was about to happen. They dragged me forcibly to the HR department. What are you planning to do? The thought of what terrible things they might do sent chills down my spine. But not knowing was just as terrifying, so I asked, "Timothy, congratulations. You've been reassigned to the supply management room." "What?" I let out a pathetic sound, unable to process what I just heard. What did they mean? Did they really have that kind of authority, or was my mind just going completely blank? Puff, puff. Stephen mimicked a comedian from TV, fooling around. The executive's sons burst out laughing at his antics. To my shock, I had been reassigned to a different department while Mr. Olson was away. After working in the sales department, I was now ordered to work in the supply management room. Even this might be a bit challenging for a kindergarten-level brain like yours, but hey, consider it our kindness. From a frontline role handling product promotions and campaigns, I was abruptly moved to a position dealing with tasks like replacing light bulbs and tissues. My brain cannot process that. Serves you right. From manager to just another employee. You should have just done as we said. Even the HR staff looked at me with pity. It seemed the executive's son's notorious reputation had spread far and wide. That day, I trudged home utterly dejected. How could I explain this to my family? On top of that, I felt a looming sense of danger. By the time they returned my phone at the end of the day, it was clear they had gone through a lot of my personal information and photos. If I left things as they were, something terrible could happen. I couldn't risk it. I decided to send my wife and Amelia to my parents' house for safety. "I'm sorry, but could you two stay at my parents' for a while?" Hearing this without any warning, my wife and Amelia were understandably shocked. I didn't want to explain the situation, but I had no choice. I bowed deeply to my wife, who was visibly shaken. "I'm sorry. The truth is, while Mr. Olson is away, those guys are doing whatever they please. Their parents, the executives, are turning a blind eye. I can't risk something happening to you both. Please stay at my parents' house until this situation is resolved." Amelia looked reluctant about missing school, but she eventually agreed. "This won't last too long, right?" my wife asked anxiously. "Of course not. Mr. Olson will be back soon, and I believe he'll take care of it. Just hold on until then. I'm really sorry. Please forgive me." I also apologized to Amelia, who didn't fully understand the situation. "Amelia, I'm sorry. I promise I'll deal with these bad guys, so you can go to school without worry." She nodded firmly at my words. And so, I began living alone for the time being. The next day, I was officially stripped of my position and reassigned to a menial department due to the executive's son's arbitrary personnel decisions. As usual, the trio showed up at 3 p.m. Then, for some twisted amusement, someone suggested, "Let's check out how Timothy is doing in his new role." They came to watch me while I was changing a light bulb in the sales department. With a stance like that, you're going to drop the bulb and break it. What nonsense! I thought to myself, when Stephen stepped forward again. Oops. He pretended to stumble and bumped into me on purpose, causing me to lose my grip. Before I could even process what was happening, the bulb slipped from my hand and shattered on the floor. "See? Told you so." They laughed in unison. "If Timothy can't even handle this, what kind of work can we possibly give him?" Stephen shrugged theatrically, putting on an exaggerated "what a shame" expression. I trembled with anger. Enough is enough. But the executive's sons brushed it off and doubled down. "If you've got a problem, we'll all quit." "Excuse me?" I blurted out without thinking. If only they truly meant it, how wonderful that would be. Seeing my reaction, Simon smirked and took it a step further. "Why don't we prove it? Not that you'd believe us anyway. Hey, hand me that paper. Let's write it down together." The three of them huddled together for a while, then handed me a piece of paper with a smug, "Here you go." On it was written, "We are resigning because Timothy told us to quit. complete with all three of their signatures. Not that a scrap of paper like this is worth anything, they said, their tone dripping with disdain. Their attitude was entirely mocking, but inside, I felt like I'd just hit the jackpot. Still, I was careful not to let even a hint of my excitement show. Besides, if it really came to that, you'd be the one in trouble, Timothy. And I'm sure Mr. Olson wouldn't be happy either. In the end, I had no choice but to stay silent. I swept up the shards of broken glass on the floor with a broom and dustpan. Satisfied with their little game of making me their plaything, they started another annoying conversation. "Man, I'm hungry. Let's order some delivery. Oh, since Timothy broke the light bulb, he should pay for our lunch out of his own pocket. Why should I have to apologize to them? Why should I be the one treating them to lunch?" And yet, in this company, such absurdities were accepted without question. In the end, I was forced to pay $50 for their lunch. When I returned to the supply management room, frustration and anger boiled over inside me. This wasn't why I had joined this company. Steeling myself, I made the decision to call Mr. Olson. "Hey, Timothy, what's up? We're about to finalize the contract with South Korea's Ocean Lady Company and bring the products back. Look forward to it." With a trembling voice, I spilled everything to Mr. Olson. Mr. Olson, Robert, and the other two executives have been completely unreachable. Meanwhile, their sons are wreaking havoc in the company every day. Yesterday, I was forcibly reassigned to the supply management room. And that's not all. They've exposed my family's personal information online. "I'm begging you, please fire those troublemakers," the executive sons. My heartfelt plea, like a cry of blood, left Mr. Olson speechless. "I can't believe something like this is happening. But Timothy, I trust you. I know you're not the type to lie or trap others unfairly. And I know how patient you are. For someone like you to be suffering this much, it must be a serious crisis." His words resonated deeply with me. Without hesitation, he made a firm decision. "Let's show them the power of a single piece of paper. Email me their resignation letters immediately. I'll accept them." I felt the tension drain from my body. That's Mr. Olson for you. He believed in me. I was glad I had mustered the courage to speak to him directly. Over the phone, Mr. Olson sounded deeply disappointed and furious. "I can't believe this happened while I was away. This is beyond insulting. I'm coming back right away. Summon Robert and the other executives. And of course those worthless sons of theirs." His tone grew harsher. However, I had a plan in mind, so I asked Mr. Olson to keep the acceptance of those resignation letters a secret for the time being. It would be better to get rid of all the rot in the company while we're at it. "I see. I'll leave it to you." True to his word, Mr. Olson returned a few hours later. He appeared before the entire staff, smiling as usual. Known for his kindness, he was affectionately nicknamed the Buddha behind his back. "Everyone, thank you for working so diligently while I was away. I've brought souvenirs for you all." He handed out his favorite Korean cosmetics to the female employees and trendy clothing from Korea to the male employees. Even the executive sons, unusually subdued, accepted their gifts with a polite thank you. "Such a stylish shirt. I really love it." They offered compliments, but then Mr. Olson dramatically exclaimed, "Oh, I made a mistake. These aren't your souvenirs." Hearing this, the executives standing behind their sons looked slightly pleased. They must have assumed their sons were about to receive something even more luxurious. Things didn't go as they hoped. "Robert, Oliver, Miles, let's start with your souvenir. I've heard you've been using my name to attempt a buyout of the Chinese cosmetics giant. Aryan Pink." Robert's face turned pale with shock. "I don't know anything about that. That was all Oliver's doing." "What? Don't lie, Robert. You were the one who came up with the idea to acquire both Aryan Pink and the Korean cosmetics giant Lilica Cosmetics to merge them. And you were planning to slyly take over as CEO. Oliver lashed out at Robert. Stop it. You're the one who said that if we used Mr. Olson's name, both the Chinese and Koreans would do whatever we wanted. You even claimed you could run wild and bring OK Trading to its knees. Oliver, turning pale, tearfully pleaded with Mr. Olson, "That's not true. I never said anything like that." Meanwhile, Miles tried to feign innocence. As far as the Aryan Pink buyout goes, Robert and Oliver were behind it. Oliver wasn't around the office because of that. I had no involvement. Honestly, Mr. Olson, I've always felt 3 executives are too many. Don't you think I'd be enough? Hearing this, Oliver turned red with anger and shouted, "Miles! I know the reason you weren't at the office, you were off playing mahjong. That's ridiculous." The scene devolved into an ugly quarrel. Mr. Olson let out a deep sigh. None of this matters anymore. While I was away, you abandoned the company. No one even knew where you were. And yet you've had the audacity to act like proper executives. It's shameful that I trusted you, and it makes me want to cry. Robert glared at Miles. Anyway, the stuff about Aryan Pink and Lilica Cosmetics is just a misunderstanding. We'd never betray you, Mr. Olson. Mr. Olson smiled kindly. Maybe so. I guess I'd become too suspicious. My apologies, everyone. Now, I have an announcement about a sudden personnel change I came up with during my flight back. Robert, you'll be transferred to Aryan Pink's Beijing store as store manager, demoted from executive director. Oliver, you'll go to Lilica Cosmetics' Myeongdong store also as manager. And finally, Miles, though it's tiresome to explain, you'll be the manager of Lilica Cosmetics' Itaewon store. Wait, what? The executives' eyes widened in shock, and they shouted, "What's going on here? Hold on. We're executives, aren't we? Why are we being treated like store managers and sent on transfers?" Mr. Olson fixed the 3 executives with a cold stare. A gaze as indifferent as one might cast at stones by the roadside. Don't you get it yet? I've already bought out both Aryan Pink and Lilica Cosmetics. I caught wind of your little scheme ahead of time. There's no place for traitors in my company. The 3 executives froze in place, their faces a mix of shock and disbelief. You should be grateful I'm not stripping you of your positions entirely. He turned his face away in exasperation. It was the executive sons who tried to intervene. Mr. Olson, please wait. Isn't this a bit much? Oh? Is that what you think? Very well. You want a souvenir too, don't you? Let me show you something special. Here's my gift for you. Mr. Olson gave me a signal. In response, I quickly set about preparing the PC. I've taken a good, hard look at how you 3 have been spending your time in the office. The executive sons flinched, exchanging uneasy glances. They began to fidget, clearly unsettled. In truth, I had arranged for employees who weren't under suspicion to secretly record the executive son's outrageous behavior. So, this is how you conduct yourselves on a regular basis. Mr. Olson remarked, arms crossed as he watched the footage on the PC screen. The executive sons grew visibly paler by the second. For example, there were scenes of the 3 of them playing games and snacking while everyone else was busy working. They were shown forcing an employee, who was on an important call with a client, to hang up and place a fast food delivery order for them. They openly criticized female employees' appearances, calling them fat, old, or ugly, right to their faces, bringing some tears to them. They relentlessly pestered attractive female employees to join them for meals or drinks, and when rejected, hurled vicious insults at them. The sheer horror of these scenes left even their executive fathers speechless, clearly unprepared for how awful their son's behavior had been. "You fools! What were you thinking? Miles bellowed at the sons, his fury erupting like a thunderclap. The sons still showed signs of resistance. No, this is illegal. Isn't this unauthorized filming? A violation of our image rights. Seizing the moment, I retorted sharply. Then what about the videos you forced female employees to appear in? Simon was at a loss for words. And let's not forget, you exposed my family on Twitter for everyone to see. It's laughable for you to make that argument now. Simon remained silent, so Ryan stepped forward. That was just youthful mischief. A prank. Right, guys? It was a desperate excuse. Surprisingly, Ryan's father, Robert, tried to support it. Yes, exactly. Look, Mr. Olson, you've always said our sons are the thoroughbreds who will carry this company into the future. Surely they deserve a little understanding. He wrung his hands and looked at Mr. Olson with a fawning, servile expression. He probably thought swaying Mr. Olson would be easy. But at that moment, Mr. Olson suddenly snapped. Even the Buddha's patience had reached its limit. Who's the fool here? Are you seriously trying to blame others for your failure as a parent? Everyone was stunned. The usually smiling and gentle Mr. Olson had, for the first time, raised his voice in anger. The Buddha had transformed into a wrathful deity. Furious from the depths of his soul, he relentlessly confronted the traitorous executives. Like father, like son. Irresponsible executives abandon the company while their sons show up at 3 p.m. to play around. You've made a mockery of me and this company. Robert, Oliver, and Miles, I gave you every opportunity, and this is how you repay me? The executives found themselves under a barrage of scathing criticism. And yet, even now, they were focused solely on saving their own skin. Mr. Olson, please forgive us. If you must punish someone, punish my son. I had nothing to do with this. Simon's eyes widened in shock. He was clearly shaken, witnessing his father's true nature. Dad! What the hell are you saying? Following Oliver's disgraceful example, Miles quickly chimed in. Yes. I'm not at fault. Actually, all of this is Robert's doing. Mr. Olson, please cancel my transfer. I don't care what happens to my son. Stephen, though. The cold, ruthless words of the parents sent chills down the spines of all the employees. What kind of people are these? Do they only care about saving themselves? Of course. These brats are nothing but burdens. Tension filled the air between the parents and their children. Then, unbelievably, a full-blown brawl broke out between them. Loud crashes and thuds echoed through the office, a racket unthinkable for a workplace. Don't you have any shame, fighting like this in front of the employees? Mr. Olson shouted, but his words fell on deaf ears. The six of them hurled insults and fists at each other. You heartless jerk. We lost the parental lottery. Ryan screeched, grabbing Robert's suit collar. Robert pushed him away, only to be shoved by Simon. The scrawny Ryan cheered, Nice one, Simon. You're not even worthy to be called parents. Angered by his son's remark, Oliver tripped Simon. Simon fell to the floor with a loud crash. Oliver stood over him, glaring down with a menacing intensity that was almost terrifying. After all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? Oliver's furious outburst seemed to embolden the other two executives. It appeared the parents' side was gaining the upper hand. That's right. Don't be ridiculous. We've had enough of children's nonsense. But the sons weren't ready to back down. The large-framed Stephen stepped forward and grabbed both Robert and Miles by the scruff of their necks. He tightened his grip, squeezing them mercilessly. The two executives coughed and choked in distress. You're the ones who ruined us. They began shifting blame recklessly and without reason. At that moment, Oliver was the first to notice Mr. Olson's icy glare. Panicking, he rushed over to his son, Simon. Hey, Simon. Tell Mr. Olson I'm not the bad guy here. Say it, you idiot. The office was complete mayhem. The female employees began pointing at something and whispering among themselves. Something unbelievable was happening. Ryan, who had been so defiant just moments ago, was acting strangely. Everyone turned to look, startled. He was sprawled on the floor, muttering to himself incessantly. It's all over. Dad said that joining this company would make me an executive in no time, but it's all a lie. He said I could easily aim for CEO too. But look at me now. I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just a useless burden on society. Suddenly, Ryan began kicking his legs and whining like a child, tears streaming down his face. Panicking, Robert tried to stop him, saying, "Stop it." Everyone's watching, but Ryan only grew more agitated and shouted even louder. You promised I'd have a beautiful secretary and endless relationships with women. You said I could have as many mistresses as I wanted. Didn't you go on a hot spring trip with one of the women from the secretary department? I wanted to be like that too. But I'm not the cool guy you wanted me to be, Dad. Nothing works out for me. I hate this. I hate this. The office froze in stunned silence. Robert, realizing his secret affair with a secretary had just been exposed, floundered desperately. Well, this is, No excuse could save him now. The executives, still pale, could do nothing but watch their sons with disbelief. You're all finished. I trusted you, but that was clearly a mistake. Mr. Olson's words were directed at all 6 of them, but the sons didn't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation. What? Mr. Olson, that can't be right. I mean, I'm not as capable as my dad, but I could still be a director, right? My mental strength isn't great. But I'll try my best. Yeah, Mr. Olson, come on. We're still the company's promising newcomers. Cut us some slack. Send our parents to China, Korea, or wherever you want. We don't care to see their faces again. We'll cut ties with them. But as for us, we're staying in this company. It was clear the sons still believed their positions were secure. Having lousy parents makes life tough, huh? Stephen said with a smile, as Simon gently patted Ryan on the shoulder. Don't worry. We'll back you up, Ryan. Stephen reached out his hand to help Ryan to his feet. Thanks. We're a team. Let's keep supporting each other from now on. It might have seemed like a touching moment of friendship if taken out of context, but Mr. Olson wasn't swayed. What nonsense are you spouting? Your resignation letters have already been accepted. There's no place for you in this company anymore. What? You're kidding, right? Stephen continued to laugh nervously. However, neither Mr. Olson nor anyone else in the room was smiling. Only then, he did finally realize that the resignation letters were real. This can't be. That's right. We never wrote any resignation letters. Mr. Olson let out a deep sigh. I hold the authority over personnel matters. It's over. I can't keep people who've caused such damage to this company. You're fired. That can't be. I failed 65 job applications before finally getting into this company. Stephen stood there in a daze. Meanwhile, the rest of us were stunned by the sheer number, 65 failed applications. For the first time, I regret showing compassion. Mr. Olson said with a bitter expression. Even so, he quickly composed himself and adopted a stern demeanor once again. Additionally, I will be filing for damages against the former executives. During my absence, they engaged in unauthorized acquisition activities, squandered time gambling, and entertained female employees, all while tarnishing my name. They'll pay for the harm they've caused to this company and others. The Secretary Department has already filed a complaint, Robert. You'll also be questioned by the police. It seemed Robert was suspected of forcing a female employee to accompany him on a hot spring trip. At this point, the executives finally resigned themselves to their fate. They accepted that they would have to face the consequences of the law. Meanwhile, Stephen, now completely cornered, made one last desperate attempt to fight back. "Timothy, I'm glad we exposed your daughter online. We may lose our jobs, but your daughter's going to be everyone's toy on the internet." Mr. Olson erupted into laughter. I couldn't help but join in, laughing loudly. "You're not just losing your jobs. I'll also be filing damages against you, sons. Your antics hurt our company's productivity. And as for Timothy's daughter Amelia..." He paused, smiling mischievously. "What? Stop dragging it out and just tell us." I couldn't help but smile, thinking, wow, what a turn of events. I recalled what had happened the night before. I had received a direct message from someone I didn't know, and it made me nervous, suspecting it was related to the personal information leak. At first, I thought it was just a prank, but when I followed up, it turns out that someone in the entertainment industry saw that Twitter post and reached out. They want my daughter to model for them. Yes, something truly unbelievable had happened. The message was from a major celebrity agency, one of the most famous in Japan. I was so shocked that I pinched my cheeks multiple times to make sure I wasn't dreaming. I immediately called my wife and daughter to share the news. My wife was thrilled, and my daughter was so excited she couldn't stop squealing with joy. Isn't this what they call a blessing in disguise? As I proudly shared the news, the three sons stared at me with blank expressions, their mouths slightly open. Their faces clearly showed that they had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. Feeling even more triumphant, I continued. "Not only that, but Mr. Olson also suggested that Amelia could be featured in an advertisement for teen cosmetics. With a celebrity agency backing us, we can handle the leaked personal information issue, so really, I should thank you." Astonished, the sons could only sigh in envy. Among them, Stephen couldn't hold back and shouted, "What? How is that even possible?" Well, sometimes, this is just how it works. Proud of my daughter, I couldn't help but boast, feeling on top of the world. From the side, Mr. Olson pursed his lips and muttered, "Probably a kind of luck you'll never experience in your lives." For the record, Amelia, though only a fifth grader, stands at 165 centimeters tall with a remarkable figure. Her features are often praised as exceptionally well-defined, something that, as her parent, I can't help but take pride in. From now on, she'll be putting herself out there more, but there's nothing to worry about anymore. I looked at Mr. Olson with a bright, relieved smile. Nodding with a warm smile, he said, "Amelia is going to do great things." The executive son stood there, utterly dumbfounded. "I can't believe the harassment we did ended up leading to this outcome. Idiot. Forget that, what about us being unemployed again? What are we going to do? I'm done with job hunting. All they do is mock me, saying things like, 'Why are you even here?'" Crying and complaining, Simon slumped in defeat. Meanwhile, Ryan dropped to his knees and bowed deeply before Mr. Olson. "Please, just don't fire us." And so, the three sons bowed deeply, lining up to beg for forgiveness. Fine. True to his nickname, the Buddha, he showed mercy once again. Ryan was rehired as a janitor, Simon as a staffer in the supply management room, and Stephen as a security guard. The one had to wonder how long even these roles would last. As expected, or perhaps inevitably, Ryan lasted just 1 week as a janitor. Simon, assigned to the supply management room, quit after 4 days. Stephen, unsurprisingly, resigned after only 2 days. And with that, the three of them were back to being unemployed together. Their once reliable fathers were no longer executives. In fact, they were now working as mere store managers in foreign countries, struggling with language barriers. With no one left to turn to and no money to pay their damages, the trio fell deeper into ruin. A few days later, Amelia's advertisement was in this morning's newspaper. My wife beamed with pride. Amelia had become the talk of her school and seemed to be thriving every day. As I turned to the social news section, a headline read, "Unemployed trio rob convenience store and flee with cash." Ah, they've finally hit rock bottom. The mugshots showed none other than the former executive's sons. I was reinstated as department manager. Soon after, Tyler was promoted to executive, leaving the department head position vacant. I was recommended to fill the role. "I've caused you so much unnecessary trouble, Timothy, and I truly regret it. As we build a new structure for this company, I want you by my side. I'm counting on you." Hearing those words moved me to the point of tears. I feel even more determined to work hard for Mr. Olson. Recently, Amelia and Mr. Olson have become quite close. He says she feels like a granddaughter to him. I've got another idea. Next, I'll stock up on products that girls Amelia's age will absolutely love. Mr. Olson is energetically traveling across Asia again today, sourcing fresh and exciting products. In the meantime, I'll make sure to keep the company running smoothly. It feels strangely delightful to work in a calm, stable environment. I hadn't realized how much I missed this. Today is the day Amelia has a photo shoot. I think I'll pick up her favorite cake and go meet her afterward.